Krishna, everyone.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, let's chant the holy names. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashati Deshtarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram. So today is a special day. Today we are going to sum up the last 9 sessions. So let's go to day one. On the first session, what we discussed is non-violence. Non-violence from the eyes of spirituality. So we discussed that there are 84 lakh species like animals, birds, aquatics, plants and humans. And every living entity who is on this land, inside the water or on the sky, they all falls under these species. And all these different kinds of bodies have been received based on the desires that these living entities had in their past lives. These bodies are like different kinds of clothes that everyone is wearing. But in reality, underneath these clothes, we are all souls. All these living entities are souls, part and parcel of God. Now, in other words, we can say that all the living entities come from same common Father, Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. So, since we all come from the same Father, there is a universal brotherhood between all the living entities, and we are all like a large family with different bodies. And this planet is our house which we all share together. And we are all on the individual spiritual journey. That is our real home. When we go back to God, that is where we belong. And humans are the most fortunate, and they are in the most evolved state of all these species. They are blessed with the higher intelligence to know the rules of spiritual advancement. Like other lower animals and plants, they are not so fortunate like humans. So after living and suffering in many different lower bodies, humans have got this topmost human body. And now that we have this human body with the higher intelligence, we must respect the spiritual journey of the other fellow beings who are still struggling in the lower species of life. And also the other human beings we should respect in their spiritual journey. So if we become an obstacle in the spiritual journey of any of these species, that is actually violence. In fact, if we do not help the living entities in their spiritual journey, is also violence. And on the contrary, if we support the living entities in their spiritual journey, is really non-violence. So, just to brief what we discussed on violence and non-violence is, we can practice non-violence. How we can do that? First, we need to be non-violent to our own self by becoming sincere in our own spiritual journey. As we discussed, we're all spiritual beings and all of us are on a spiritual journey. So first we need to be non-violent to our own self by being sincere in our spiritual journey. If we are not sincere in our own spiritual journey, after getting this human birth, we'll actually be violent to our own self also. And we are being ungrateful to God for giving us this great human body. So that's number one. Number two is we can be non-violent by not hurting anyone physically, mentally, or emotionally. Since everyone is a spiritual being, we should not become the cause of any kind of misery or any kind of distress on these spiritual beings. We should behave like with people like we would like them to behave with us. So with lots of understanding. Next point is we can be non-violent to others by connecting everyone to the Lord. Everyone is suffering in the different bodies. Why are they suffering? Because they are separated from God. And once they are elevated to the God consciousness, all their sufferings will be over. So what we can do best to them is to preach them and preach our friends and our family and connect all of them to God. This is the best act of non-violence to them. Another thing that we learned on day one is that we can be non-violent by stopping anybody else to become an obstacle in the spiritual journey of the living beings. And the example that we took is the Battle of Mahabharata, which, which was fought to re-establish the principles of religion so that the next generations to come, all the living entities could live peacefully and they can progress in their spiritual journey. So Mahabharata was the biggest act of non-violence. And also because Lord Krishna himself, he came on the earth to re-establish dharma. So Lord come on the earth when there is too much of irreligion practices on the earth. So these were the key points that we learned on the day one. Non-violence, most importantly, and how our spiritual advancement and our development of character that depends on non-violence. So non-violence is a very important virtue to start our spiritual journey. So next day, day two, knowledge. So day two was the day of understanding what is knowledge, because some are eating the animals thinking they are correct and others are protecting the animals thinking that they are correct. For those who are eating the meat, they are fully convinced that it's not a sinful activity, and they've got dozens of arguments to convince us that it is going to give us the meat, protein and good health and all of that. While others, like most of us, we believe that this eating meat is a sinful action. Everyone is living life in a different mode. Some are living in a sinful mode and some are living in a sinless mode. And the quality of their life depends on the quality of their knowledge. If the knowledge is poor, the life that they will be living will be full of sinful activities. And if the knowledge is good, we can live a sinless life. So we can see people around us who are eating meat their entire life without knowing that how sinful it is. Even after receiving the great human life with the highest intelligence, what is the use of this intelligence without the good quality of knowledge? It's like computer with virus inside. If someone is eating his own family members, it's even worse than being an animal. Even an animal doesn't do that. So, because those animals who do that, they are the ones who are actually eating their food. For example, a tiger is eating or a lion is eating the deer is their food. So they are still following the rules of their food as given by Lord. But this animal eating is not the food. Animals are not the food for the humans. So it's really, we are not taking a responsibility and we are eating them up. That's really a very, very big sin. But at the same time, it is possible that if we receive the high quality spiritual knowledge, those people who are eating the animals can also turn vegetarian and they can live a pure sinless life. We can say one can turn from sinful to sinless only by the improvement of their quality of knowledge. So this session of day 2 was about knowledge. What is really knowledge? Knowledge is something that can tell us what is sinful and what is sinless, so that we can discriminate between right and wrong and make the decisions which are right in our life. And knowledge is something that can tell us who we really are. Are we this body? Are we the mind? Are we the soul? It's very important to know our own identity. That is what we will call as knowledge. Knowledge is something that can tell us the purpose of our life. Why are we here? So that is something we'll call as knowledge. And only God is authorized source of such a knowledge, since He is the creator of life. And He has given us all these rules of life in Bhagavad Gita in the form of His conversation with Arjuna. So once we read this sincerely, we'll get to know the purpose of life. We'll get to know if we are a body or we are a soul. We'll get to know what are the sinful activities, what are the sinless activities. So all of that we can learn by getting the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita. So how can this knowledge be acquired? We also discussed that this knowledge cannot be acquired. This knowledge can be realized. This knowledge can be realized because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we are souls and we are wearing this body. And the soul is Sat Chit Anand. And the Chit part of the soul means knowledge. conscious. Conscious means full of knowledge. And if we are full of knowledge already inside, that knowledge cannot be coming really from outside. It is only a matter of cleansing. So Bhagavad Gita is a holy book which cleanses us, and the knowledge comes from inside. So it is realized from inside. So it will Bhagavad Gita reading will cleanse our consciousness, and once that cleansing happens, the knowledge is revealed from inside. So that was the second session, second day, when we learned that knowledge is a key part in living the sinless life. Then we started to discuss, if knowledge can give us a purpose of life, let's briefly discuss what is the purpose of life. And actually we spent about 3 or 4 sessions just to discuss the purpose of life. So we discussed, if we are talking about purpose of life, so we need to see it in 2 parts. What is life and what is purpose? So we all experience that inside our body there is a life. A very simple way of experiencing this is by pinching on our hand, and we can experience the pain. So if this pain is there, it means there is life inside. A dead body cannot feel this pain. So that is the difference between the living body and a dead body. The presence of life inside this body. And this life gives us the energy. This life is, because of this life, we can feel the heat and the pain and the cold and the pleasure and the happiness and the sadness. All the emotions, all the experiences that we are having are just because of the life inside. When we lose this life, it means we are dead. So understanding this life is the most important aspect of knowledge. So Lord Krishna also tells us in Bhagavad Gita that the source of this life is called Atma, soul. Soul is the source of this life-giving energy, consciousness, which is running inside the entire body. Just like the source of sunlight is sun, the source of life is soul. In other words, life comes from soul. So we discussed what is life. Now let's discuss what is the purpose. Because we are discussing purpose of life. So we discussed life. Life is something which that comes from the soul. And let's discuss what is purpose. The definition of purpose is the reason for which something is done or created, or the reason for which something exists. So our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada says that nothing in this creation is without a purpose. All the trees, they have the purpose. They have the purpose to give us the oxygen, fruit, shade, all of those things. And every plant has a purpose. Every animal has a purpose. This is what we discuss in detail. So just like trees, plants and animals and rocks and mountains, we are also given this body by nature. Yeah. So we should also have a purpose. The body should have a purpose and the soul should have a purpose. So we have a soul who is wearing this temporary body given by nature. So the only difference between that we are the higher beings, and so our purpose should also be a higher purpose. And let's evaluate what could be the real purpose of soul. So I also shared with you my friend's 80-year-old father. When we spoke to him about the purpose of his life, he said that he wasted his entire life without serving any purpose. He said that he spent his life almost like sitting in a long train and without any idea of where this train is going. He was busy during this entire journey, sleeping, eating, shitting, fighting with people and also playing with people. He never asked the question, where is this train going? Where is my stop? Why did I at all get into this train and go where? And it's going where? So like him, everyone means lots of people. Most of the people on this earth are actually in a rat race without knowing where they are heading. We set a purpose or a goal to accomplish something, we sweat towards that. Day and night we work towards that, and then we feel miserable during that process. And once we accomplish that, we are again dissatisfied. We get the greed to accomplish more, and then we feel miserable again. So we start slogging again, and then there is no end to this race. And we gave the example of Michael Jackson or many other celebrities who eventually they died with a lot of dissatisfaction. Michael Jackson had an early death at the age of 50, and he never felt satisfied in life. He did everything to get happiness. We never got the happiness because he was finding the meaning of happiness from the wrong sources. So most of the people who are rich and famous, they look happy from outside, but they're actually suffering from inside. So we need to be very careful that we don't get into a life similar to people like Michael Jackson, because eventually that's a life of miseries. So what is the right way of getting the purpose of life? If life comes from soul, that means the purpose of life should also come from soul. If we are spiritual beings, that means the purpose of life should also be spiritual. So that took us to the next day, and the next day we learned we are the humans at the last letter. We said, who gave us this life? What's the source of this life? We said that there is a life and there is a purpose, but who gave us this life? Just like this house we are sitting in, it cannot come by chance. We cannot receive this body by chance. We didn't order this body at Amazon. So there has to be a creator, there has to be an owner, somebody who decided our gender, somebody who decided whether we'll be boy or a girl, or who will be our parents, and all of that, whether we'll be born in India or America, all of that. So there is somebody who has been a cause of all causes. So is it not logical that he should only tell us what is the purpose of our life? So he should only be telling us, and why did he give us this body, and why has he given us these parents? What's the purpose of our life? Srila Prabhupada says, imagine this body is like an apartment, and we, the soul, are the occupier of this body, and God is the owner of this body, who has rented us this apartment for a limited time to fulfill some purpose of life. But when we get this apartment, this body, we start believing that I am this apartment. And I get attached to the apartment. I start decorating this apartment with nice flooring, nice paintings, nice TV, all of those nice accessories in the house, nice carpet, nice air condition. So I totally forget that this is not the purpose of my life. This is not the reason why I am living in this apartment. This apartment is the rented apartment, and I'm investing too much in a rented apartment out of my ignorance. There is a very different purpose why this apartment is given to me, and I must utilize this apartment for that purpose. So Srila Prabhupada says that how can we understand the purpose of this life? Purpose of why this apartment is given to us, why this body is given to us? By understanding our spiritual laws. If we are spiritual being, we must understand our spiritual laws. For acquiring the spiritual knowledge, we have to become humble. We have to give up all our false ego. We have to surrender. जब हम बच्चे थे, when we were little kids, when teacher was teaching us A for apple, B for boy, we were actually humble at that time. We didn't have ego. That's why we could learn those alphabets, and then we could make the sentences one day, and today maybe you can make poetry, because on that day you were very humble to understand your teachers. Same way we have to be humble and surrender to the holy scriptures like Bhagavad Gita. So we have to become humble and sincere. That's the most important spirit that we need. If we tell this spiritual journey to the cats and dogs, they will not understand. It's useless. If you tell to a cat, you are not this body, you are a soul, they will not understand that, because they are in the lower intelligence. So we are so fortunate that we have this higher intelligence to understand this situation, and we are in the very rare situation to get this body. As we discussed, we have lived millions and billions of lives. We have suffered in those lives to actually acquire this. And now if you see this temple, we designed this 8.4 million staircases of this temple, steps, and we are on the top of this staircase. So we are very close to reaching to the God. And we should not make any mistake as of now. So we can clearly see what could be the purpose of this life is to really reach to the God. and we have to do those activities which can help us reach to the God. So we also discussed that a tree is standing there for thousands of years. I mean, if you see at the bottom of the green part, the green dots, they are the trees and the plants and trees. Trees especially are, they live for thousands of years. There's also a soul inside them. They're also growing and changing their body. But what's the difference? The difference is the method of living. The method of living of cats and dogs is different. The method of living of fish is different. The method of living of trees and plants is different, and the method of living of human is different. So we have to learn what is the method of living of humans. That should be linked to the purpose of our life. And now, after getting this priceless life, we should not live like the methods of cats and dogs. We should not adopt the methods of cats and dogs. We should adopt the human methods of living and make the full use of the services given to us in this apartment. We should cultivate the knowledge and kill the ignorance and get away from all the fears, all the anxieties, and know the real purpose of life. So, if we are the humans on this last step of the ladder, last step to reach to the temple, and there is a possibility to meet God, and we are just few steps away, is it not wise now to just take few steps towards that instead of taking a chance of falling down again in the misery of sufferings of millions and billions of lives again? So Bhagavad Gita is giving us this path. It's showing us the path how we can actually take these next few steps. So this is what we discussed on day 4. And sorry, I'm quickly briefing all the days because I have to cover all these 9 days. So on day 5 was a session taken by Subha, when Subha discussed with you how food is also very important. The kind of food that we should be eating should be based on the Bhagavad Gita principles, which is juicy food, food in the mode of goodness. And also she shared how her own realizations of purpose of life, how she found the purpose of her life in healing people, in serving people. And she said that she could have become a big artist and go to Oxford, but she decided eventually to serve people. And the real happiness, the constant happiness which she's experiencing is because of her purpose. So that's what she shared with us. And then that took us to the next session, which was about the career. So what is the career? Day 6, we discussed, is good career the purpose of life? So we said that we are not here to make our careers. See, careers is a wrong concept. We are here for a much deeper thing. We are here for a higher purpose. Because we are not taught about the soul, that's why there is no spiritual purpose. We are taught about the body, that's why there is a career. But we are limiting our potential by thinking career. Our potential is far more as a soul, and our potential is very limited as a body. See, the body has a very limited power. The body is limited, but the soul has unlimited power. So, because the entire knowledge is residing also in the soul. The happiness residing in the soul. Soul is Sat Chit Anand. So, if we realize our spiritual potential, we'll be able to serve the higher purpose of life. And then we will be able to achieve the constant happiness by achieving the higher purpose of life. So, happiness from the gross body that comes to us is very sensory, coming from the senses, and it is very temporary. It fuels our ego, it fuels our greed, and eventually we become very angry and we become very dissatisfied. And we gave also the example of a bottle and the water inside the bottle. So this body is like a bottle, and what is the purpose of the bottle is to carry the water so that somebody can consume that water. And water is the soul. So if we consider ourselves as a bottle, that's a mistake. We are the water inside that bottle. So water has its purpose to be consumed by somebody, and the bottle has its purpose to carry the water to be consumed by somebody. So physical body and this subtle body has a purpose to help the spiritual journey of the soul. And the soul has the purpose to serve somebody. And we'll discuss also who is that somebody. So all the religion and all the bona fide religions and all the bona fide scriptures, they teach us that we are the soul residing inside the body, and they also teach us that the purpose of this life is to re-establish our loving connection with God. So be it Bhagavad Gita, be it Quran, be it Bible, be it any other bona fide scripture, they're all talking about that we have to re-establish our connection with the Lord and finally go back home, back to Godhead. So this is our real purpose of life. This is the real purpose of the soul. And we discussed about Karam Yoga. Then what are the actions that we have to do? I mean, if this is the purpose, it's okay. We have to go back to Godhead because we are on the last letter of the journey, and then it's obvious that we should be doing some spiritual activities. But what is the karma? What is our karma? What do we do from here? Because we are saying that there is no career, then what do we do? So karma means action. So we have to be in the Karam Yoga. We don't have to be in karma. We have to be in Karam Yoga. And what is Karam Yoga? Karma means action and yoga means union with God. So Karam Yoga means action that brings us close to God. That is Karam Yoga. So in other words, we keep doing what we are doing, but always remember God. And always offer the results of our action to God. It's like a cashier in the bank. So if we consider that this life really belongs to us, or let's say if somebody is running a business, this business belongs to me, that's a mistake. Actually, the business belongs to Krishna. Like our body belongs to Krishna, our mind belongs to Krishna, our intelligence belongs to Krishna, the soul belongs to Krishna. Everything on this planet and all the universe and all that exists in this cosmic manifestations belong to Krishna, belongs to Lord. Everything is energies, inferior energy or superior energy. So it's like a cashier in a bank who is working dutifully in the bank, is counting the cash and not be taking that money away to his house, what belongs to the bank. The cashier cannot cheat the bank and take the money. So that is cheating. So unless and until, till the time he will be faithfully working in the bank, he will be always happy. But once he will be doing the cheating, he will be punished. So that is the kind of punishments that we get because we are utilizing the body and the intelligence of the God, and we are using it for our sense gratification. That is the real problem of our life. So we should utilize all the resources of the God, this body, this intelligence, for the pleasure of the Lord. So all the profits, all the results of our action should be dedicated to the Lord. So that's how we can, live a life of Karam Yogi. So now example could be like if somebody wants to become an educator or a singer or a businessman, we can always do that seeing Krishna's hand in everything. The purpose of the life, should be to spread the message of the Lord through the business, through singing, through education. Eventually should be just spreading Krishna consciousness, spreading God consciousness. Because as we said, all these people are actually basically in pain because of their forgetfulness towards Krishna, because they are separated from Krishna. So this is the service that we have to do. We have to help them in their spiritual journey. That's what we call as the non-violence also. So whatever money also we get by doing all of these activities, we should dedicate in the spreading of the holy name. And that is what is going to give us a true happiness. So then we moved on to the day 7 and we discussed sinless food. We discussed about how cow's milk is actually nourishing for us as per scriptures, yet it is sinful today because of the dairy practices in today's world. And we also watched a film in which we saw that how animals are brutally treated for milk. So commercial milk means profits. So by consuming milk and dairy, we promote sinful activities of these dairy farms, and we eat the pains of the animals. And also we become sinful to our own self. This food feeds violence in our conscience. So this kind of violence is extremely damaging for our spiritual journey. So also apart from and sinful, It is also not good for our physical health. WHO warned us that if we keep consuming this milk, India will have 87% of people who will be suffering. So this is not wise to consume this kind of commercial milk and it's unhealthy. Now the question comes, if this body is a gift given to us for our spiritual journey, we cannot be so brutal to this body. That's why we call this commercial milk as the white poison. Now some people believe that they get the health from the milk, they get the nourishment from the milk, but this is not true. It's true. We saw a video in which we saw that how famous sportsmen like many other wrestlers and bodybuilders and many sports people are being vegan just because their energy levels are increasing by. So this is very important that not have any sinful food in our life. Also really have milk. An exception to this is that you should have a cow in your house. You can serve the cow and milk the calf first, and then you can consume the milk. Just the cow with a lot of love and devotion, you can consume the milk. It's not sinful at all. So we are against the commercial milk. We are against the brutal milk that is coming to our house.